Geoffrey, do you want to go first?
Yes, definitely. So I'm Geoffrey. I'm working for Responsum, and the reason why we're having this webinar together is that Deepas is since 12 months one of our preferred partners, especially in the UK. And there we started a collaboration together, and we thought it would be a very good idea to have a webinar about the advantages of using a privacy management software.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, good morning. I see a few more have just joined. I'm Natalie, or just Nat, it's absolutely fine. I manage our consultancy team at DPAS. As Geoffrey said, we've been working together over the last 12 months, maybe a little bit longer now, actually, and offering Responsum to our clients and new clients. I have a few existing clients that are already enjoying Responsum, so as Geoffrey said, a great opportunity to show what it does and how it can benefit people. So I'll hand back over to Geoffrey shortly to tell you the interesting bit. I'm just going to tell you the sort of house rules at the beginning. The key thing for you all to know is you should have access to the chat function and to the Q&A function. Please do submit questions, comments, get involved. You know, if anyone's got any anecdotal things, add it into the chat. Hi, Yannick. Perfect. Thank you. It's great to know it's working. And if we can't answer the questions as we're going through the information, we will get to them at the end. We've got a bit of time put aside to answer. So providing we've got everyone, and Geoffrey, you're ready to go, then go for it.
Thank you, Natalie. Voila, so we'll start with an introduction. We already did the welcome, of course, but also the significance of data privacy and in the world we're living right now. What we're seeing, definitely the last couple of years, last couple of months, there is, let's say, an increasing factor, and that these are the fines. The last couple of months, we're also looking at Meta, Amazon, but also more locally per country, per sector, where in life science, biotech, healthcare sector, in each sector, there are more and more fines happening. And that's definitely one of the reasons why data protection and privacy is getting more important day by day. One of the other factors there is, let's say, the new privacy legislations. So if you're looking at the USA, also at the UK, probably Natalie, but if you see the list here, USA, Data Care Act in Canada, New Zealand, what you also have here in Brazil, Thailand, Singapore, even in Germany, there is a telco and media privacy legislation, in China, Switzerland, South Korea, and definitely also the AI Act. Last week, I was at Risk Amsterdam. There was a lot of fuss around the AI Act, also because it's having the same scope as the GDPR UK data protection law, in that sense that also not only the AI providers, but also the AI users are in the scope of the AI Act. So that's also very important to know. And what I heard there was that also privacy professionals, data protection officers will also be the ones who are probably, let's say, responsible for maintain and implementing the AI Act. Also on the right, what you're seeing there is by the end of 2024, 75% of people will have their personal data covered under modern privacy regulations. So it's quite a lot worldwide. And a very important statistic here is that 57% of global consumers agree that the use of AI poses a significant threat to user privacy. So taking all of this into account, privacy, data protection is getting more and more important throughout not only Europe, UK, but also throughout the world nowadays. So let's see how everything will evolve in the next couple of months, years. I know, Natalie, if you would like to add something there regarding the new UK data protection law coming on.
I think the UK is definitely going through a bit of a period of change, and we know that we're going to have potentially some substantial change next year. What that looks like, we're not 100% yet. I don't want to speculate too much. However, I suppose tying it back to Responsum, I think it's really important to mention how customizable it is. That actually it doesn't just fit in with GDPR, and it won't just fit in with UK legislation. That actually it's really beneficial for that whole host of pieces of legislation that you've listed, Geoffrey. So yeah, not the changes in the UK, but we know that we're going to see them all over the world, really, as you said, in the next few years. That Responsum, one of the key things that you guys have really focused on is that Responsum grows as the legislation changes. It isn't kind of a static piece of software that's going to be outdated soon.
Yeah, thank you for the input there, Natalie. So I think we both agree that doing nothing is not an option. So I already told you about the fines. Definitely PR disasters in case of a breach or a fine are huge nowadays. If you look at innovation, business slows down because of red tape, business blocker. What I really mean with business blocker there is if you look at the vendor assessment process in general, we don't want to be the blocking factor in the organization. We want to guide them, we want to support them, we want to help them, and we want to get rid of the image of being a business blocker. We don't want to be the blocker of innovation. So that's definitely something we should change within the roles that we're having right now. What we also see, we don't want to have less transparency towards our customers, consumers. So there is a lot of research happening right now about customers, consumers who are leaving organizations as a customer because of the lack of transparency, and people will lose customers, consumers, but also lose business there. So I think there are a couple of reasons, requirements there, like we're seeing right now, why to have a proper pricing program management in place is getting more and more important also there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the value, the environment we're working in has moved on over the last few years. I think we all can hold our hands up and say around that 2016 to 2018 period, we had a bit of a crazy time where everyone was just trying to be compliant. And it was kind of, let's get this done, the easiest way we can or the cheapest way. And then over the last few years, subsequently, people have started to see the value of data protection and actually see how they can embed data protection in a way that brings business value rather than just compliance. And a couple of the things that you mentioned there, Joffrey, sort of tied back to that. I don't know how familiar, Joffrey, you are with the UK news recently, but numerous headlines over the last few weeks have been data protection related, aimed at public sector as well, FOI breaches, SARS not being responsible. We're talking about police forces, government institutions, local authorities. So there's a lot of news, there's a lot of buzz around data protection. And that's without even mentioning things like the marketing tools. Apple's latest marketing is now about how they protect privacy.
True.
Samsung do the same. Ultimately, unfortunately, we know that generally what they start, a lot of other people will follow. So I think it really shows the emphasis now on how valuable getting this stuff right is, and obviously in the simplest way we can.
Yeah, what also was surprising me was the class actions that were happening in the UK more and more lately. It's something we don't really know in Europe, but I think it's coming from the USA, but also in the UK, we see more and more class actions happening over there, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, there is almost a US type attitude. And I think as people become more aware of their rights, and therefore are more frustrated by people.
Natalie, can you still hear me? Give me a minute, please. Do you still hear me? Okay. Can you hear me, Natalie? I can't hear you anymore for some reason. Natalie, we can't hear you anymore. No.
Everyone, apologies for this. Natalie's just going to leave and rejoin and see if that will solve any issues. Because we can't hear her and she can't hear Joffrey, so I'm assuming it's something on Natalie's PC. But hopefully when she rejoins.
Okay, then I will reshare again.
Thank you, Joffrey.
Any better?
Yes, we can hear you, Natalie.
Lucky you. Okay, brilliant. Apologies. It's always one, isn't there? Yeah, sorry, Joffrey. Carry on.
Do you see my screen again?
Yep, all good for me.
Okay, perfect. So let's go more, let's say, on topic. So the advantages of privacy management software. What are the advantages right now, and why you should have a privacy management software? So what we have seen with our customers that there a lot of DPOs, privacy professionals, are also doing a lot of admin tasks right now. And we really want to automate this, improve this, so they can have a better focus on the strategic decisions, have an overall view, more on helicopter view and everything. One of the main topics is to have more efficient processes. So what we have in Responsum and in general privacy management software should have is an automatic reminder there. For example, what I experienced in the past when I was working as a privacy consultant, you're sending out a lot of documents, Excel documents via email, not sure if you're getting them back with the full answers, booking one-to-one meetings. You need to have your own project management board to follow up everything. So that's one of the things that we are handling with Responsum, is to create more efficient processes. So can send out tasks with a deadline, and they receive an automated notification when deadline is not met, for example. But also you as a privacy professional and as a DPO, you also receive these notifications that you're always sure that all the tasks are handled related to a data breach, related to a data specific right request, related to a certain processing activity. So that's something that we really have seen right now. And also the autofill information wherever it's possible. So with Responsum, you can send out an assessment, and you can map these answers directly to fields in your processing activity, into your stakeholder or vendor register, etc. So that's really to automate and increase the efficiency of certain processes. The next part, centralization. So yeah, what we're all seeing right now and noticing that every privacy data protection process is somewhere in the organization, but not really in a centralized way. So it's very important that you directly can see where everything is located. One of the things, for example, if there is a data breach, you should try to handle as soon as possible. So with the data breach, you need to see where which IT or M system is impacted, which department, which office, who are the responsible people. So therefore, centralization is very, very important, that you have everything in one place. And even we're going that far that you can link privacy with information security, with your risk management, so you can handle the complete, I call this the personal data lifecycle. We are triggering assessments automatically. We are logging the risks automatically, and you can do the follow-up and assign this to certain people in the organization. And of course, here on this slide, last but not least, proof of compliance. Yeah, hopefully you don't get some audit of the authority, but yeah, with a tool, and once you have centralized everything, it's very easy to prove compliance. It also provides a lot of customer consumer trust. So I think these are the three biggest topics why what the advantages are of having a privacy management software right now. If we go into the next slide, also the same thing, not only prove compliance, but also improve your compliance. It's one of the main important things, of course. You're never completely data protection of GDPR, UK data protection compliant, but trying to improve this step by step to see where you are on that level. We have a couple of maturity checks in place there. Deepal is helping us with doing this together with the tool. So that's definitely something where a privacy management software is kicking in. Improve customer trust, like I said before, it's a very important topic. If you can say, for example, that you're using a privacy management software, it definitely gives some trust back to the customer and to the consumers. One of the biggest bottlenecks in a lot of organizations and blockers are third parties, third-party risk management, assessing vendors, assessing third parties. So also with a smooth process and an efficient process with a privacy management software, you can definitely improve this. So you will not be the blocking factor anymore in your organization. Same thing for bouncing back from data breaches. So if a data breach is happening, you want to handle ASAP. You don't want to call everyone, send out emails. You want to have everything in one place with one overview and a centralized view. So that's what we're also trying to do with Responsum and the privacy management software that we are delivering. And of course, last but not least, and maybe the most important one, what we're seeing right now is enhanced business involvement. Well, we have a lot of discussions with privacy professionals, data protection officers, people who are working in the business of privacy. The biggest challenge for everyone is involve business, work together with business. And also therefore, what we have done with Responsum is really to make it as straightforward, as easy as possible to work with. So you can collaborate via task manager within Responsum. So I think these are a couple of topics, parameters, why having a privacy management software in place is quite critical. I don't know, Natalie, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I think that's a really good overview, Geoffrey. Thank you. For me, and I know we're going to talk in a minute about some of the real world sort of benefits and how we've already used Responsum. One of the key things for me is that task and centralization that you managed earlier on, that we know that we need to improve compliance. That's great. There's 1,000 ways to do it. But like you mentioned, not having 10 different Excel spreadsheets flying around everywhere with different version numbers and different people's input, the same with policy work or even a DPIA, that various departments might have access to or need input on. Having everything in one place that's so intuitive and user-friendly is probably the biggest selling point for me, is that you can go there, you know where you've got to go, click a button and you're going to be able to get to where you need to be, rather than this multitude of documentation that ultimately doesn't always achieve the same standard. So yeah, I think that ease of use is one of the real advantages of having the software. That there's all of the high level stuff we know that it's going to do where it comes to accountability and demonstrating compliance, but actually just the sort of on a personal level, the streamlining of those activities is invaluable. It's just being able to do things so much simpler and so much quicker.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree there. Like you already told us, real world case study implementation. You're, let's say, quite experienced with using Responsum. I would say the floor is yours here.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say I've got a pretty good handle on it now. Thank you to your training, though, Geoffrey. I suppose this slide just touches on a existing client of mine or of DPAS's. To give everybody a little bit of background, they're a large multinational organisation. They operate out of various locations, not all of which are in the UK. Some of the relationships they have are quite complex, including partnerships where there is controller, joint controller, controller processor, separate controller relationships gets quite contrived. And so one of the key challenges that they had with data protection compliance is they have all of these staff that are spread out all over the globe, all trying to achieve the same thing. So exactly as we just said, with various bits of documentation, people using different templates, they're in different areas, they've got different supervisory authorities that provide different types of documentation. So it was really difficult to get a hands on everything. And not just from an oversight perspective, but those guys that are doing it operationally, really difficult. They're operating in different time zones. They've got different departments trying to do things. So it's constant chasing, trying to find this, trying to find that. There's different shared drives, there's different email chains.
Yeah.
And so getting all of that compliance stuff into one place was a challenge in itself for them. let alone making sure that the individuals that are involved had limited access, so the access controls were appropriate for those individuals, that they knew what tasks they had to do. And then because of the sector that they work in, there's some quite strict reporting, and that's across the board, not just on compliance. They have regular audit risk committees, so on and so forth. So having something and a way to analyse what they were doing and really be able to pull an output, a result. So Responsum was a kind of one size fits all for them. It's given them that centralized place. Everyone can see what everybody's doing in real time as well. Everyone sees the same version. All of the individuals that have access to that documentation have access controls. So not everybody needs to see everything. You can, as you mentioned, Joffrey, you can assign tasks. So their overall compliance is immediately better just because of the management of the associated risks. That it's in one place, the security arrangements. Joffrey, it might be a great time for you to talk about integration and some of the security features of Responsum as well. It was a real kind of welcome change that I think there is a little bit of work to do when implementation comes along. And of course, some documentation needs moving over, importing. But Responsum makes that pretty easy as well, with being able to upload Excels, upload PDFs, Word documents, even SCORM files into the e-learning, which DPAS assisted the client with. And then for them, everything's now in that one place. They know it's secure and they can pull out all of those reports into CSVs and Excels when they need them. So yeah, really, really beneficial and quickly beneficial. The implementation period isn't massive. So Joffrey, I don't know if you want to talk to us a little bit about the implementation and how Responsum can integrate.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are two topics here to discuss with implementation. Of course, one of them is the implementation of the existing documents, the existing processes into Responsum. That's going very smoothly. The time to value is very short there. So if you have an Excel ROPA, for example, we can upload this very easily, depending on the complexity, of course. And the same thing for IT systems, the data objects you have in place. So that's definitely a very smooth process within Responsum. The other part of the implementation is also thanks to you, Natalie, and thanks to DPAS and the consultants of DPAS. It's very important to have a map of an overview of where the data is located, where the data is going to, how the business processes are looking like, how business is acting on this. There are various different ways of conducting let's say a data subject rights request, of handling this. There are very different ways of handling a data breach. So that's also one of the important things of, let's say, implementing Responsum, that we definitely can align this with how business is handling this and provide them with guidance. So we are sure that there's a uniform way of doing this process for everyone. And also there, of course, with the automated notification part, when they're logging a data breach, logging a data subject right request, the DPO, the pricing professional, is receiving the notification automatically. So I think there are two very important topics here. One is really the implementation of the documents. The other part is the implementation of the consultants, more content-wise, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a nice time really to highlight DPAS and how our relationship works with you guys at Responsum. So, of course, we can do the sales bit and we can show you a demo, and Joffrey is kind of going to show us a little bit of Responsum towards the end. But one of the key things that we've been helping clients with is the actual implementation. So ensuring that ROPA is compliant and that the information that's uploaded into Responsum is accurate, and is correct, that DPIAs are done appropriately, risks been assessed appropriately. So I think we found a real nice relationship, and I think it's worked for Responsum's clients as well as DPAS's, that we both have a slightly different role to play. Just for anyone, we've got a few names that I don't recognise, which is nice. But just for anyone that's interested, there's sort of two distinct roles. So please do feel free to get in touch, and we can point you in the right direction. If you should have spoken to Joffrey or you should have spoken to DPAS, then we can sort of liaise between us.
Definitely, Natalie. One of the things that's also very important is how to select the right privacy software with key considerations and vendor evaluation. So we spoke with a lot of let's say prospect, but also with customers. And one of the key things is really user experience. You can be as fancy as you want as a privacy management tool. The most important thing is user experience for the privacy professional, for data protection officer, but also for business. It's very important for business that they need that they can handle and can work with the software that is in place, because otherwise the burden of putting information to the system will be too high, and they will never put information into the system. So that's really, really key. Another thing is also really, does the tool fit your needs? What are the real needs of your organization? What are the real needs of your privacy program at that moment? And can we play a role in this part? So there's also definitely something that you need to do by yourself. Define the scope of your challenges, define the scope of your needs. Then the integration part, like we already spoke about, Natalie. So it's very, very important that the time to value is short. We see, of course, a lot of privacy management software organizations right now happening. But yeah, time to value, sometimes it's too long, and it also takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of budget. Probably you need to have your privacy program in place by the end of the year or in a couple of months. If you need to wait on an integration and implementation, yeah, it's always a big thing, the integration implementation part. So please be aware of this if you're choosing for privacy management software. Your team's skill set, also a little bit linked also to the user experience, but also what are the things that your team, where are you good at? What are the flaws of your team? How could we improve this with the software? So what's your team skill set? And again, not only the privacy management team, but also their business. And then, of course, also one of the, it's a crucial thing, look for provider that offers support, not just software. We've seen this in the past with a lot of privacy management software tools. You're buying a tool and then you're at your own. Good luck with it and bye-bye. And then it's definitely, not how we want to operate in this world, in privacy landscape. That's also one of the reasons why we working very closely together with DPAS here in this case. So look for providers that really offer support, that helps you, that bring you value, that brings you success with the tool, and that you see every year again that you can grow with the tool, with the support, and not just buying a software because of you want to buy a software. So these are for me the crucial things of how to decide about the right privacy management software. I don't know, Natalie, do I miss some things here?
I'm going to go for one, which I think is normally a bit of a make or break, and it's budget. And in comparison to an awful lot of other privacy management softwares, Responsum is really, really reasonably priced. I think you're being very humble there, Geoffrey, that, there's very large names in the market that no doubt people will have heard of and be familiar with. However, their pricing structure is expensive. Modules are charged as bolt-on prices. You pay for more and more users, and the price really, really, you might see an advert saying prices starting from, but actually that price snowballs exponentially when you start actually getting into what you need to, to be right for your organization. Whereas none of that is true of Responsum. The price is the price. It's really, really simple, the way the pricing structure works, and it's done fairly. So yeah, I think budget is always something that plays a part, which with all this the world we live in, isn't it? So I think completely agree with all of the points that you've made, but I think it was just worth mentioning that we all know that ultimately finance definitely plays a part, and I would say Responsum is a little bit softer on the purse strings than some of the competitors.
Yeah, taking it, it's definitely true. What we've seen in the past also with pricing, it was a very difficult exercise. But the main thing is, as we are in privacy landscape, to base our pricing on how data intensive the organization is, and not really only on the amount, let's say, of people working in an organization. If you compare, for example, the sensitive data that you're processing in a healthcare organization, compare with an automotive organization, can be very, very different. So think there's one of the reasons why our pricing is very competitive there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I suppose the best thing to do would be to stop talking and and let you show everybody what we've been talking about.
Yes, so let me share my screen here again. Voila. Natalie, do you see my screen again?
Perfect.
So you see my screen moving right now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is the page that you get when you're logging into Responsum. I will go, let's say, a little bit high level through Responsum, but you can see what we are able to do, and with also with the main features. So this is the start page that you will get when you log into Responsum. On the right, you have your initials. What you directly can see is that you can have different separate entities in one group. So it's one of the benefits of Responsum. You can work with different entities together if you're one DPO, one privacy professional. Also language-wise, of course, the English language is there, but also other languages within Europe are available in Responsum. Then on the right, you also see your built-in accountability framework or built-in accountability system where you receive automated notifications, which you can see here. I was a day late for a deadline. Today is a deadline. A task has been assigned to you. So all these notifications are automated, something I will show you later on, but it's very useful, user-friendly. You're just sending out a task and therefore you're triggering a deadline. If the deadline is not met, both of you receive notification that there's still an open task. So you don't need to work with any other project management tools anymore. Then you can add some favorites. So I totally can imagine that, for example, Natalie is doing a lot of DPIAs. So we want to have a quick link to a certain module. So you can click then on the DPIA submodule. Useful links to the Responsum website, to the DPAS website, but also to the website of the authorities, or to daily bits to have a look at the fines every week, what's happening in privacy world. And then here, last but not least, of course, the task. So you can have a complete overview of all the tasks that are still open or closed with a deadline and whether or not completed. Regarding the task management part, that's something that will be more clear later on when I'm going to privacy management. Also, like Natalie also already mentioned a couple of times here, what you see is our dashboard. So we are capturing all the metadata that's in Responsum, even average completion time of a data subscribe request, legal basis used. What's also an important one, of course, what are the risks that are coming out of a certain assessment? What's the treatment for these risks? The risks per month that are coming out of certain assessments. So everything that you can see here within Responsum later on is measurable, is captured in a dashboard or in a chart. And also these are also completely exportable. So you just click on the arrow and you can download the numbers behind a certain chart. Then we have assessment. So we have a privacy, security, and data management maturity check where DPAS can guide you very well. And we have the assessment builder. The assessment builder is very, let's say, nifty if you want to do, for example, vendor risk assessment. So what's happening, you can build your own assessment here. You can upload your assessment, or DPAS can do this for you, and they can implement this in Responsum. Once the customized assessment is in Responsum, you just need to click on share, and you can invite a third party, for example, via email. In this case, what you're seeing here is AWS with a link with an access code. In this case, they receive the link, they can access the portal with the access code. Once the assessment or the questionnaire is completed, you'll receive notification that the third party has completed the questionnaire. Now, with the new developments in Responsum, it is even possible to map answers from a questionnaire into the raw power, into the stakeholder management module of Responsum. What could also be useful to involve business is sending out discovery questionnaires within your organization to your colleagues to business. So you can translate the person language in a more business language, and then you can just get the link, and then you can send the link via your communication channel within the organization. They can complete the form, and you receive then notification when all the information is captured per department, for example. So you don't need to have one-to-one meetings again. You don't need to struggle with Excel sheets. You can just send out an assessment. You can send out a questionnaire, and then complete, for example, a certain processing activity. Then we have the awareness module. Like we've seen with a lot of customers of ours, awareness is key. If business is not involved, if business is not aware of what's happening in privacy or data protection world, you will lose them. So what we have done here, you can just click on add enrollment, and you can add e-learnings, and you can send the e-learnings to different departments, to the complete organization. That's up to you. You can even work with smart groups where you can trigger an introduction course or a right of data subject course for newbies, new onboardees in the organization. The same thing with phishing simulation. So you can click on create a new campaign, and you can send out email phishings or SMS phishings. To give you an example here, the critical security alert from Google, this is how this look like. Also there, you can customize this as you want. And this will be sent out to, for example, a certain department, to certain employees within the organization. This can be a landing page where they can leave their email and can leave their password. You can select this one. And of course, what's crucial is a training page. So there, one of the training pages we have developed is, oops, you just got phished. But then also we are explaining what to look at, for example, the URL, how you could, let's say, mitigate the risk of clicking again on a link. Also completely customizable. DPAS will also have a big input in this one and in the e-learnings the next couple of months, also here regarding the training page. So yeah, awareness is really crucial, I guess, within the organization. Then going one step further to privacy management, what you're seeing here is that we have, of course, the ROPA, the records of processing activities. You see data subject right requests that you can handle, incident and breach management, DPIAs. And you also see that legitimate interest management, legal obligation management, and transfer impact assessment is directly linked to the register. Before I'm going a little bit deeper into the register, I would like to show you how legitimate interest management is working, for example, or transfer impact assessment. If you click on legitimate interest as a legal basis in a certain processing activity, this will trigger this processing activity, and the processing activity will be automatically listed in this submodule legitimate interest assessment. Even one step further, we are providing with the template of conducting the balancing test. Of course, there you will need DPAS as a consultant to complete the questionnaire and to go through all the questions. But then in the end, once we went through all the questions, we are providing with the conclusion whether or not legitimate interest could be a proper legal basis. Again, you see final decision here. And of course, you can overrule this if there are additional parameters that we didn't notice in the beginning. The same thing for legal obligation. Once you click on legal obligation as a legal ground, then this will trigger this processing activity here, and there you're adding legislation. And then also transfer impact assessment. So once you click on yes, there's data transferred outside the EA or outside the UK, then this processing activity will be listed here. Then also, therefore, if you click on edit, if you open the transfer impact assessment, we are doing the complete guide here of conducting this impact assessment. So transfer impact assessment is directly capturing the processing activity, the information is coming from there, and then you can conduct the transfer impact assessment. So again, here, what we're trying to do, is to trigger events like assessments, so you're completely sure that you don't forget to do legitimate interest assessment or the transfer impact assessment here. Once we're going to the ROPA, you will see that you have a complete overview of all the processing activities. Know that you can do some bulk action, so you can export everything within the ROPA in a PDF, in a Word document, or in Excel. But also you can create a task for all the processing activities, and you can assign this to a couple of people or employees within the organization. Then what you also see is the filter part. So you can filter on, let's say, everything that's in Responsum. So you can even, let's say, departments here. You can filter on accounting, click on add filter, and you have an overview of all the processing activities where the department accounting is involved. Same thing for legal basis, for example. If you would look for legal basis where they're using consent, then these are all the processing activities where they're using consent as a legal basis here. So if you go one step further, what you also will see here, once I click on edit, then you see a complete overview of the processing activities. What's important here to know, on the right, you see 3 different features and you see submit. So once you're accountable, let's say for the ROPA within your organization, if an employee or someone in your organization is adding the processing activities, we have implemented the 4 I's principle, so they need to submit this before. Therefore, you need to approve this. Once it's approved, this is final in Responsum. It's not mandatory to work like this, but it's a possibility to use the 4 I's principle here. On the right, you can always add evidence, you can always add files. And you also have a complete overview of the data subject rights requests that are related to this ROPA, to this processing activity, the stakeholder that are involved, the users, the transfer impact assessment, and it is also clickable. So if I click, for example, in this case, on Amazon Reseller Belgium, I directly will go to the information, all the information that we're having about Amazon Reseller Belgium. And last but not least here, this is a task manager. So here you can create your own task flow of managing this processing activity. One of the most common examples is, as a test, I can ask for more info. I can ask for more info with a description. We'll call this more info test. And then you can select users. So for example, you would like to have more information from Amir, Anna, and the demo account, let's say with a high priority and next week. Then I just click on save. And in that case, Amir, Anna, and the demo account receive notification into the mailbox. Then they know that they need to conduct a task or to handle a task within Responsum. If the task is not completed by the 12th of October 2023, then the 3 here will receive notification, but also the DPO or the processing professional will receive notification that these tasks are still not completed on deadline day. Click on save, and then you will see the complete task manager flow here with the deadline and whether or not it's completed. This is a feature that you will see in every different module of Responsum. Then if you're going a little bit deeper into the processing activity, you can select the legal basis. So in this case, select legitimate interest. This will trigger the balancing test like I showed you before a couple of minutes ago. Then we have the context and scope where you can add all the information, also very straightforward. You can just click on the office where you can just click on a role, the processing activity owner. What we also have here is the review interval. So in this case, this could be 1 year. It can also be 1 month. But this means that the processing activity owner, Alex in this case, will receive notification every month that you need to review this processing activity. One step further here with the role, what you also will probably notice, or already have noticed here, is the eye. So once you hover over the eye, you will see that we are trying to explain all the privacy terminology that's happening in Responsum. So we are trying to explain you how this can be translated into business language, let's say. You can select your role, process controller, if there are any joint controllers, of course. Then the next step, you can add personal data. As we have seen in the past, it's very difficult for business to know which personal data they're processing. So what we have done here, if you start, for example, from data subject type X, we have created data objects. So for example, for someone of HR, it would be more convenient to add the data object they're using. The data object can be, for example, here a CV. You just need to click on CV, and then we are providing them with the personal data related to the CV. It's also customizable. So you can customize the personal data applicable to a data object and then just click on select. So you don't need to provide the personal data, only the data object in this case. Then we have the IAM systems, also very straightforward. You just click and they add the IAM system and they can delete this in just 1 click. Then we have the retention period, of course. What's also interesting there is the data retention period. So we have an integration with Virus Keepers. They're specialized in data retention, and that part of the tool is doing, I will make it very convenient for myself here. Selecting Belgium, you can select a category. You can select anti-money laundering, and then Responsum is providing you with the data retention period, you can just click on select, and there you will see that we are providing with the data retention period, the retention period trigger, description of it, and the article that's applicable. I click on save, and you have all the retention period here in one view. So in a couple of clicks, you get to know the retention period per data record. We have security processing, where you can add technical and organizational measures also very easily. Just click on plus, and you can select, for example, encryption. What's also important here to know, you can appoint it to someone if it still needs to be implemented. This person will also receive a task like I showed you before in the same way. You have disclosure, just click on add. You can add a department internally that's involved. You can add an office that's involved internally, for example. You can add an external stakeholder, and then you go to the next slide, and then you can click on yes, and this can trigger, this will trigger a transfer impact assessment. Like I showed you a couple of minutes ago, you can select the transfer mechanisms, and I can click on save, and then you have an overview of disclosure here in the tool. We also have the data protection principle checks in place, and if you're missing some fields, you can always add some fields at the end of a processing activity, but also by default in the settings, so we can make sure that you're not missing any fields here in the ROPA. I'm also a little bit conscious about time, Natalie. I see it's 11:47. I will jump directly to data subject right management. So what you can do here, logging data subject right request and also managing completely in Responsum. What's cool to see here, the only thing that you need to do is select the data subject. So for example, go to data subject type X, and the tool automatically recognizes the involved processing activities, the involved departments, the involved offices. This makes it very straightforward and easy to handle this data subject right request, because you know which department is involved. If you click on the right, you see the linked items. So again, here you see the processing activities that are related to this request, the departments, the offices. So you can directly reach out to these departments and mention that they need to handle the right of access for this data subject. And you can directly also say in which processing activities, which IAM systems are involved. Just create a task, and then these people will receive a notification in their mailbox to handle the data subject right request. Same way of working for incident and breach management. The complete workflow of an incident or a breach process is in place here. So you can log the incident and the data breach, and then we are assessing the data breach based on the ENISA cybersecurity framework. So we're going through the questions, circumstance of the breach, and then we provide you with an impact score. Based on the impact score, of course, you do notification to the data subject, you do notification to the authority if necessary. Again, you can always overrule. If there are some parameters that we didn't include, you can always do a final decision, a final checkoff here. And in the end, you're writing a summary. What's important, of course, with the data breach that you can handle as soon as possible. So what you can do is just click on the linked items. You directly see the IAM systems, the departments, the data subject that's impacted. So I can directly reach out to the concerned departments, mention which IAM systems are impacted, and mitigate the risks as soon as possible. Last but not least here, you also have the DPIA module, where you can go through the DPIA. If I open the DPIA, what you will see here is that in the beginning, you need to define the scope. You can add the processing activities, you can add some comments. And then in the next step, you can or you need to conduct the pre-DPIA. Also, again, here, we're trying to make this as user-friendly as possible. So if you hover over a question, we are explaining this in a more human language, not only in a privacy language, what the questions actually mean. And then again, we are providing you with a recommendation whether or not the DPIA should be conducted. And again, the final decision checkoff is a risk-based approach. So there you're going to risk identification, to the risk assessment, risk handling plan, and the residual risk. What's important to know from the assessment that we have in place, all the risks that are coming out of an assessment are logged automatically in the risk management module. So here you'll see all the risks that are happening. And if I open a risk, you will see that there you can add the probability, you can add the impact level, and then we're providing you with the risk level. In the end, you can add the threats and the vulnerabilities. And of course, the risk treatment is very important. So we make it also as user-friendly as possible, click on Add Measure, and here you can add, for example, a measure to mitigate this risk. And next to this, you can also add a control or a subcontrol. If you're looking for an ISO 27001 certification, for example, or that is already implemented, you can add these subcontrols also to mitigate the risk. And in the end, of course, we have the residual risk coming out of the probability and the impact. Then we have stakeholder management, so vendor management, supplier management, third-party management, or we want to call this, we call this stakeholder management in the most broad way. The goal here is that you have a complete overview on the level of a certain vendor. So in this case, Amazon Reseller Belgium, where you have the general details, you have the point of contact, and then you have the agreement. So here you can work together with legal. You can upload the agreements and you can see the versioning. If you don't want to upload the DPA, for example, you can also just add the link. So what you will see here, if you click on Add New Agreement, you can add this here, and then here you can add the storage location. You can also add the review interval, and you can add the linked items and processing activities. So you can add the link. If you click on the link, you can go to another system to consult, let's say, the DPA. Then one thing that I forgot, the assessments, maybe the most crucial part to do so with vendors. So again, here, you can just share the vendor risk assessment or supplier risk assessment with a third party. Like I showed you before, they receive the link and they will complete this. Once it's completed, you receive a notification and you can open the assessment here and you can have a view on what the answers are of a certain assessment or questionnaire you've sent out. It's also possible to map these answers directly into the risk management, so you can directly trigger risks and put them in the risk management in an auto-populated way. And then last but not least, we also have governance, where you can centralize all the advices. You can centralize the policies and the procedures, upload them, describe them here in this case. And also the same thing with legal templates. So if you're going to legal templates, which we'll see here, you can upload them, describe them, and store them in Responsum, or you can work with a link in the governance part. So yeah, I think this is it on a high level, very, very quick, very conscious of time because we only have 7 minutes left. There's still a Q&A. I need to wrap up the session. But yeah, if you need more information, I guess, Natalie, you're also very familiar with it, so they definitely can contact you. They always can contact me, of course, if you need if you want more information about Responsum. So yeah, I think this is it for the demo of Responsum, and of course we can have a deep dive into Responsum in a later stage.
Yeah, thanks, Geoffrey. That's great. I think it's so difficult, isn't it, when it does so much, trying to do that kind of whistle-stop tour in this amount of time. It's really hard, but I think that gives everybody an idea of what Responsum's capable of for sure, and it shows how each module interacts with one another, which is one of my favourite parts. We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. I don't know, can you see them?
No.
So one I have answered, it was about how easy it is to import an Excel-based record processing activities into Responsum. So obviously super easy. I've responded via text. However, there's another one in there about data mapping. Do you want to take that one?
I'm not seeing the questions. Could you rephrase the question there?
Is there a data flow mapping tool?
Yeah, so what you will see is in the processing activity and in the business process management module that I didn't show you, is you can completely map all the process, not only the data, personal data process, but also business processes. And from business process, you can create processing activities. You can see the complete data flow in that part, and then you can trigger a processing activity. So from a process, you can create a processing activity. And in the process, you're visualizing everything, so doing the data mapping. But yeah, feel free to reach out to us, and I can show you how the data mapping is looking like in a visualized way.
Absolutely. Have we got any more questions before? I'm aware we've only got a few minutes left, so feel free to submit them over the last couple of minutes. But I suppose I'll take the opportunity to tell you what DPAS can do and how we work alongside Responsum. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we're a consultancy business, primarily alongside some additional services such as training and subject access request processing. So a lot of our services lend themselves to Responsum and implementing Responsum quite nicely. So on that first sort of box in that column, you can see the things that really directly impact Responsum. We can do that compliance work. We can do the implementation, the transfer of documentation, at the same time as reviewing. So although it says build your ROPA, of course, we can review the ROPA for accuracy and provide recommendation as we're doing that. The same said for policies, DPIAs, suppliers. And then additionally, one of the key things I think we've found from using Responsum over the last year or so is in order to be able to really get the best out of Responsum, you need to understand the not just the functionality, but the drivers, if you like, behind it. So quite a few of our clients now have done data champions training or similar type role. Information asset owners is a similar kind of idea, which really means that people understand their roles, responsibilities, and what the legislation means for them and their job, which means you can then use Responsum in the most beneficial way. And as Joffrey demonstrated there, it's so interactive, and the automation from one department to another, one module to another, is really beneficial that everybody's sort of singing off the same hymn sheet. I'm not going to read you the list of things in the right-hand column. I'm sure everyone can see them. But yeah, please do get in touch. As Joffrey said, if you've got any questions, consultancy is our bag. But Responsum wise, yeah, feel free to reach out to myself or Joffrey. We have a slide at the end with some contact details on, so you'll all be able to see. I think that leads. Go on, Joffrey. Sorry.
No, just a question, because I noticed something on your LinkedIn of Deepa's, also something about AI trainings, or that's coming up, or did I?
So we are offering AI training, and our founder is actually developing an AI course of his own, which will be a more practical course. So yeah, look out for it. We make announcements on LinkedIn, on our website. So as soon as it's up and running, it'll be there. But the foundation's AI one, I think there's dates available on our website.
Okay, cool. Nice to see. You have this slide, and then do you want me to show the video, Natalie?
Oh yeah, let's have a look at the video. So I'll talk over it a little bit. Last year, Responsum and DPAS jointly hosted a conference, which was really successful. We had some people had some great feedback, and it was really beneficial. So we're doing it again, this time in January and in Birmingham. So the slide has all of the information on. There is a whole host of really interesting speakers already lined up with some quite unusual topics being spoken about, along with the standard risks. AI is in amongst the mix as well. So if you want some more information, of course, reach out to us or Joffrey. He will be there, and the information is also on our LinkedIn, on our website. So it'd be great to see everyone. Please sign up; it's completely free. The end of January next year. Don't really have much else from me, Joffrey. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. Thank you, Joffrey, for your time. Some contact details at the end there if anyone's got anything that they'd like to have cleared up.
Perfect. Natalie, thank you very much for the webinar, and speak to you soon.
Perfect. You too. Thanks, Joffrey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.